Kingdom of Bhutan. Hello everyone. Bhutan, or the Kingdom of Bhutan, is a landlocked country in South Asia, located in the eastern part of the Himalayas. This country has a relatively modest territory, with only 38,394 square kilometers, and is home to approximately 770,000. Although situated between two of the world's largest civilizations, China and India, the Bhutanese people have maintained their uniqueness and distinctive national characteristics. This country has been given many nicknames, such as the most mysterious country on the planet, the happiest country in the world, or the Thunder Dragon. However, Bhutan's foreign relations are very special, as it is currently the only country in the world that does not have diplomatic relations with both the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China, i.e., Taiwan. So why does a small country like Bhutan not care about its giant neighbor, China? Let's find out together in today. Currently, the fundamental goal in Bhutan's foreign policy is to protect sovereignty, territorial integrity, unity, as well as the prosperity of the national economy. Achieving this goal depends on maintaining friendly and cooperative relations with all countries, aiming to promote a fair, peaceful, and secure international. In addition, the Thimphu government has also set guiding principles for its foreign policy. Many of these principles are derived from the Constitution of the Kingdom of Bhutan, with the first principle, territorial integrity, security, and unity of Bhutan. The second principle is to preserve the political culture. The third principle is to develop friendly and mutually beneficial relations with all. The fourth principle is to achieve economic and social self-reliance, while strengthening the sustainable socio-economic. Additionally, it contributes to building a world of peace, security, and prosperity. The final principle is to promote respect for the rule of law, peaceful coexistence, and the peaceful According to Article 20 of the 2008 Constitution, the foreign relations of the Kingdom of Bhutan will be under the supervision of the the Thunder Dragon King, who is the head of state acting on the advice of the executive branch, specifically the Prime Minister. Regarding diplomatic, the Kingdom of Bhutan has set 6 main goals, with the first being to protect sovereignty, territorial integrity, security, and the unity, while promoting its unique identity, cultural heritage, and pursuing gross national. The second goal is to promote Bhutan's peaceful coexistence and develop friendly relations with all countries, while participating in regional and multilateral cooperative. The third goal is to become a responsible and constructive member of the international community, and contribute to global efforts in protecting peace, security, understanding, and international cooperation. The fourth goal is to contribute to the sustainable socio-economic development of the country and promote trade relations and economic partnerships. The fifth goal is to adopt a principled approach to all issues by upholding international law and promoting the peaceful resolution of this. The sixth goal is to provide consular services and protect the rights and interests of Bhutanese abroad. Since its establishment, Bhutan has been a member of many international organizations such as the Universal Postal Union or the United Nations Capital Development. In 1971, Bhutan became a member of the United. After being admitted, the country continued to become a member of related organizations, such as the United Nations Development, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and the group. Subsequently, a permanent United Nations office was also established in Thimphu in 1970. Bhutan also joined the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in 1982. From then on, it began receiving support from these organizations. During this period, Bhutan also became an observer of the World Trade Organization. To date, the happy country has established diplomatic relations with 54, but has not established relations with both China and Taiwan. The main reason given is due to its close relationship with India. And throughout the modern era, the core of Bhutan's diplomatic relations has always been tied to its southern neighbor. This is not only due to geographical proximity, but also a carefully considered choice by the ruling elite in Bhutan. Bhutan-India relations. After gaining independence from Britain, India signed a treaty of friendship with Bhutan in 1949. Under this treaty, India recognized Bhutan's internal independence, but Thimphu had agreed to let New Delhi guide its foreign policies. As import of weapons and military equipment required India Subsequently, the Delhi government returned part of the southern mountain passes previously ceded by the British and increased subsidies to Thimphu. At this point, the special relationship between India and Bhutan was firmly established, since the kingdom's territory is mostly mountainous, with only the southern border with India being plains. The country's natural resources are not abundant. Therefore, almost all of their fuel, electricity, and daily necessities are imported from India. By 1956, Bhutan began establishing a modern education system and an open economy. For this purpose, New Delhi provided 3 million rupees to the Thimphu government. After 1961, with financial support and professional assistance from India, Bhutan implemented its first 5-year plan, focusing on domestic hydropower development. And the main customer for the country's electricity was again India. However, aid or assistance from the past has never been free. Accordingly, various agencies of the Thimphu government had advisors from the New Delhi, and the Bhutanese army also received training from Indian officers. Moreover, the country's army even created border conflicts, leading to the British-Indian forces having to step in for protection. In 1962, when the Sino-Indian border conflict, Bhutan observed the weakness of the Indian army and began reconsidering signing treaties with this country. Subsequently, the Thimphu government repeatedly proposed amendments to the peace treaty, hoping to regain some diplomatic sovereignty. Simultaneously, the Bhutanese royal family also contacted Western countries through various channels, hoping to expand support. As profound influence on Bhutan could not be replaced by other countries. Aware of the Thunder Dragon Kingdom's intentions, the Indian government not only but also threatened to blockade the border and cut off aid. By 1968, to ease the situation, India agreed to establish ambassadorial-level diplomatic relations. During this time, another Himalayan country, Sikkim, also under India's influence, was not as fortunate. This kingdom had less land and population than Bhutan but held a crucial geographical position, leading to tighter control by New Delhi. In fact, the land of the Thunder Dragon at times did not hide its ambition to annex both Sikkim and, however, due to the complex global situation at the time, India did not want to become the focus of criticism. Therefore, this country planned to only control Sikkim and appease Bhutan by supporting their UN membership on September 21, 1971. Subsequently, Bhutan quickly responded to New Delhi's affection by recognizing the independence of Bangladesh, an Indian ally, on December 6, 1971, and became the first country to establish diplomatic relations with. However, this did not satisfy India's ambition to dominate South Asia. After imposing control over Sikkim in 1973, India formally annexed the kingdom in 1975. This made Bhutan fear it would meet the same fate as Sikkim. For after joining the UN, the New Delhi government also emphasized the importance of a permanent peace and friendship treaty between the two sides, while disapproving of the happy country developing relations with permanent members of the UN Security Council. India worried the Bhutanese royal family would use the power of the 5 permanent members, especially China, to balance influence. Thus, to prevent Thimphu from leaning toward Beijing, New Delhi held regular consultations on interests to appease the royal government. However, relations between the two sides became tense in 1980 when Indira Gandhi, known as the Iron Lady, was re-elected as India's prime minister. Upon taking office, she demanded Bhutan maintain absolute consistency with India in foreign. To counter this policy, the Thunder Dragon Kingdom decided to expand diplomatic relations with many countries worldwide and enhance its international. Throughout the 1980s, Bhutan established diplomatic relations with 15 countries, including Nepal, Japan, and EU nations. Among these countries, most had good relations with India and little influence in South Asia. Due to concerns about New Delhi's attitude, Bhutan did not establish embassies in the new diplomatic. Accordingly, their representative offices in India, Bangladesh, and the United Nations will handle consular work. China is the northern neighbor, so Bhutan also wishes to develop relations with a billion-person country. However, because India inherited the British Empire's strategic border security, they believe Bhutan can provide security depth for their strategic weakness, which is the Siliguri corridor. Therefore, at all costs, India will prevent Bhutan from establishing diplomacy. In 2006, the 5th drug outpost succeeded to the throne. About a year later, India and Bhutan revised the peace treaty and trade agreement. As foreign policy changed from accepting India. But in reality, New Delhi has never relaxed its control over Bhutan. By 2008, the kingdom had its first democratically elected prime minister, Jigme Finlay. Previously, he had served as foreign minister, so upon election, he pledged to introduce many foreign initiatives. After that, the Kingdom of Bhutan began establishing relations with more countries, increasing from 21 to 52, except for some economically powerful countries like Australia and Brazil. Most of Bhutan's partners are small countries with little international influence. Thus, it would not challenge India's hegemony in South Asia, while also consolidating its diplomatic network and enhancing international presence. Despite all precautions, Bhutan's rush to establish diplomatic relations with many countries still displeased India. In the 2013 general election of this country, New Delhi announced it would stop subsidizing gas and diesel for the Thimphu government, and cancel the subsidized electricity import price if Jacob Finlay were re-elected. This immediately caused domestic fuel prices to soar, and Jacob Finlay also failed to be re-elected as Prime Minister. Only from 2020 did Bhutan establish diplomatic relations with two other countries, Germany and Israel, raising the number of diplomats. At the same time, to avoid angering India, Bhutan also does not establish embassies in any country. Currently, the kingdom only has 4 embassies located in India, Bangladesh, Kuwait, and Australia. Additionally, only a few countries have representative offices in Bhutan, such as the Royal Thai Consulate General, Japan International Cooperation Agency, Korea International Cooperation Agency, and Canada-Bhutan Foundation. To date, Bhutan has not established diplomatic relations with any of the 5 permanent members of it. Among these 5 countries, China is the closest to Bhutan, and the mainland is also an active initiator of diplomatic dialogue. At the same time, both have conducted multiple rounds of negotiations regarding the national border. Besides, the Buddhist communities of S influence, historical factors also somewhat hinder the country. Historically, relations between Bhutan and China have been closely tied to the region of Tibet. In fact, the Bhutanese state originated from a Tibetan monk named Ngawang Namgyal, who arrived there in the early 17th century. He then established the Dragon Kingdom in 1616 and repelled Tibetan invasions. Ngawang Namgyal also created a distinct cultural identity for the Bhutanese people. Since its unification, the country has never been completely conquered, occupied, or ruled by any external power. Not only surrounded by majestic mountain ranges with treacherous terrain, but also thanks to the intelligence and talent of its leaders. Even when Tibet, with Mongol support, invaded the kingdom again in 1714, they still could not gain control over this small country. Subsequently, events in Tibet being annexed by the Qing dynasty in the early 18th century pushed Bhutan out of the Himalayan political security orbit. Meanwhile, British activities from the mid-19th century drew Bhutan into the South Asian political security orbit dominated by the British Empire. Subsequently, treaties such as the 1865 Symbolic Treaty and the 1910 Treaty of Punakha between Bhutan and the British Indian government served as guiding principles for the Thunder Dragon Kingdom's diplomatic relations. At that time, the colonial government in the Indian subcontinent also promised not to interfere in Bhutan's. However, the royal family had to accept the guidance and advice of the British Indian government on matters related to foreign relations. After the Symbolic Treaty was amended, it included a clause defining Bhutan as a protectorate of the British Indian government. After 1910, the Republic of China made efforts to woo Bhutan, both through persuasion and coercion when necessary. But the Treaty of Punakha hindered all their efforts. Government to assert sovereignty over Bhutan were reflected in letters from high-ranking officials in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, to Bhutan. Most of these letters contained demands for the kingdom's leader to comply with orders such as circulating Chinese currency and opening up for trade development. But the firm stance of the British Indian government extinguished all efforts of the Republic of China from the outset. From then until the British left South Asia, Bhutan remained a country under the protection of the British Indian government. Thus, it can be said that the 1910 treaty is the main factor preventing China from developing relations with Bhutan. Besides the Republic of China, the People's Republic of China government also frequently claimed that Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Tibet were all part of the Chinese Empire. Many documents suggest that Chairman Mao Zedong himself declared China's precise borders to include Burma, Bhutan, Nepal, Taiwan, and Korea. Subsequently, tensions in the Himalayan region began when the People's Liberation Army occupied Tibet in 1950. At that time, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declared that the country would not allow the Himalayan border to be violent, and that protecting Bhutan, Nepal, and Sikkim was India's responsibility. Concise history of China.
Republic of China mentioned a large strip of Bhutan.
Subsequently, the Beijing government was said to have occupied a territory in northern and northeastern Bhutan. A wave of reactions emerged when the Tibetan uprising reached its peak in 1959. While relations between India and China were also at a critical red alert level. In 1960, the Beijing government mentioned liberating Bhutan and other Himalayan states from the wrongful control of Indian imperialism.
All these manifestations made Bhutan concerned and cautious in its relations with China, especially the 1959 events in Tibet, which had a decisive impact on this kingdom's foreign policy. Accordingly, the plight of the 14th Dalai Lama and thousands of Tibetan people under the cruel treatment of the mainland deeply hurt both the elite class and the Buddhist devoted populace in Bhutan. Therefore, in 1960, the Thimphu government decided to completely close trade with Tibet and China, while withdrawing its representative from Lhasa City. From then on, Bhutan shifted its policy to promote relations with its neighbor India in all activities. Policy changes in the 1960s led to changes in Bhutan's relations with China in the early 1970s. During this period, the Dragon Kingdom government began diversifying its foreign policy and participating more actively in the international community. 1971 was an important milestone in interactions between Bhutan and that year. The mainland again voted to support Bhutan's membership of the United Nations and publicly recognized the country as an independent state. Republic of China.
However, also in this year, Bhutan recognized the independence and established diplomatic relations with Bangladesh, a country opposed to China's ally Pakistan. This made the mainland from 1974 to 1975. While Beijing courted Bhutan on one hand, it simultaneously increased attacks on the Indian border when that country annexed Sikkim. During this period, India and Bhutan had minor misunderstandings regarding the Cambodia issue. Additionally, Peking and Thimphu did not have good relations with the new government in New Delhi. Seizing this opportunity, the Beijing government actively demonstrated willingness to establish diplomatic relations and committed. However, the Dragon King did not respond to the mainland's goodwill. With skillful diplomacy, the Thimphu and New Delhi governments restored a friendly atmosphere. The Bhutanese government also declared that it accepted its security and destiny being enveloped in South Asia, while linking its nation's fate with India. Thus, the royal government of Bhutan rejected using the China card to balance influence with India. From then, the New Delhi side could feel more secure against China's courtship, while consolidating its firm regional hegemony. Despite limited relations, bilateral visits and interactions through other multilateral channels between Bhutan and China still occurred. This created an important foundation for meetings between leaders and officials of the two countries. Nevertheless, interactions between Bhutan and China remain very limited. The clearest manifestation is the trade exchange between the two. Accordingly, as of early 2023, this country's bilateral trade with India reached $1.3 billion, approximately.
Relations with Taiwan.
After the defeat of the Second Chinese Civil War, the Republic of China government had to retreat to Taiwan Island. From then until now, this island has constantly sought international. Currently, Taiwan is recognized as independent by 11 UN member states and 1 UN observer. On the other hand, the Taipei government has also recognized Bhutan as a sovereign state. But until now, despite having no diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China, Bhutan still does not recognize or establish it. Similar to mainland China, the primary reason the Dragon Kingdom does not recognize Taiwan is due to historical factors. Because when the Republic of China held power on the mainland, they were similar to the People's Republic of China in not abandoning it. Thus, the governments may differ, but the ambitions are similar on both sides. The second reason was expressed in a statement by Bhutan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Although Thimphu does not have deep, extensive cooperation with the Beijing government in many fields, Bhutan still supports the One China policy of the People's Republic of China. Therefore, the country does not establish diplomatic relations nor recognize Taiwan. The third identified reason is due to India's
foreign policy depends heavily on New Delhi.
And until now, India does not recognize Taiwan's independence. Therefore, Bhutan dares not overstep to recognize this,
because doing so would not only offend India,
but even the Chinese neighbor would hardly leave this small country on this. And those are the reasons we found in 5 minutes of research about why Bhutan does not establish diplomatic relations with either China. Thank you for watching the entire video. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.